Welcome to episode 89 here of Drew's Sports Crew here on this Sunday night. Myself, Drew Skyberg, joined alongside a guest here. We brought him back. Robert Shimek is here. First ever time he's on a live streamed episode of Drew's Sports Crew. But hey, he's here nonetheless. And Robert, how are you doing here on this Sunday night?
Doing good. Football obviously came to a close for high school. Basketball starting up this week, or has started for girls, and yeah, a lot of sports right now. Football, basketball, NFL, NBA. Great time to be a sports fan.
Great time of the year. We just had the Baseball World Series here wrap up to a few weeks ago. But look, we got the EWC. We're going to be talking about, as Robert alluded to. We'll be talking about, the football conference teams. We'll be talking some basketball, too, in the EWC. Give you a nice preview on that. But also, we're going to be rolling. We're going to be talking about some Wisconsin sports as well. We cannot forget about those, right? We'll be talking about the Green Bay Packers. Unfortunate, of course, last Thursday, but we'll touch on it. We'll also be diving into the world of the National Basketball Association. We'll be talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. Can they keep up their hot start? They've lost a few this past week, but we're hoping a nice little turnaround back to where they started the first 10, 11 games or so. So let's get right into it here, Robert, and we will start. By the way, I didn't mention Robert has some trivia planned, so we'll hear those at the end of the episode as well. But let's go to the world of football here, Robert. The 2022 Eastern Wisconsin Conference football team was released. We have the all-conference team, so we'll gladly be looking over these. We'll start, of course, with the awards. I'm going to start with it. Conference champion, right, Two Rivers. And then the offensive player of the year goes to Justin Klinkner of Two Rivers. The defensive player of the year is Logan C. of Chilton. Coach of the year, then, you guessed it, Kevin Shilcox of the Two Rivers Raiders. With those three awards, Robert, any objections, right? Or what did you think?
No, I think they got it right. I mean, obviously Chase Mathias is a really good player too for TR, so you couldn't go wrong there. But I thought Klinkner, he was one of the better quarterbacks in the whole state this year, yardage and stat-wise. So, and obviously when you lead a team, you're the leader of that team. And, they didn't rely on Mathias as much as they did last year. They probably wanted to save him a little bit, and he had some really big games in the playoffs. So I definitely think, them throwing a little more this year and Klinkner having another year of experience, yeah, he definitely deserved that.
And, yeah, Justin Klinkner, your offensive – or your – for the conference, right, the offensive player of the year, he, again, was led the way in passing yards, right? He had 2,647 passing yards. Second was Max Breenbach of KLC with 1,673. So, he ran away with that award. I think what stood out for Klinkner was the efficiency, right? He was throwing 15, 20 times a game, but was like 3 or 4 incompletions. It was remarkable how efficient he was. And again, that's what gave him unanimous nods there at quarterback as a junior. Also can't forget, right, being the offensive player of the year as well for them. Other unanimous guys, right? Chase Mathias was unanimous for running back. Austin Phillips was a unanimous selection at wide receiver. Logan C. Connor Sanford then on the offensive line. Also other unanimous, selections there. So a pretty good, balance, I'd say, for the all-conference first team, right? We see Reimer on it. Do we see a team from, or I'm just looking. I think we have every school represented on it. I think we do. I think we have every school represented on the first team. I don't know if that's happened, in a few years, actually. So some pretty good balance there, right? We have Reimer of Roncalli. We got Hovey of Valders. We have Noah Heinen of KLC. We have Logan C. and Ryan Lissow and others of Chilton. We have some Keel. We have Jonah Funkhauser, Tate Hartlub. So, and we have the other squads there too. So pretty good balance there in that first team defense too. However, right, with how dominant Two Rivers defense was this year, shocker, Two Rivers leads the way on that. Chase Mathias, unanimous selection at inside linebacker. Actually, the only unanimous defensive selection there. So just want to keep that in mind. But yeah, Two Rivers runs away with this. Actually, no brilliant on first team offense. I didn't add, but Damon Schmidt got the nod at defense. So he ended up brilliant got on the first team, but overall the defense. Right? I mean, I mentioned TR heavy, some Chilton thrown in there. So going through, I guess any comments, Robert, on the first team defense?
No, yeah, I saw a couple games this year. Um, Defensive wise, yeah, I saw Chilton play a game, and Logan C is just an absolute monster. I think he was one of the guys we highlighted, or even last year, that was just an absolute stud. And yeah, he was just a big boy on the line, and a lot of teams I know just had to have had to run away from him just because he was that effective. And yeah, other guys, obviously Matthias and Matthias's brother. I mean, Chase still got another year, but Max, he's got 3 more years. He was on the line a lot this year, and he looked really good as well. But yeah, I mean, pretty much sounds accurate as I thought. And offensively, I'll say this. I mean, I know Braden Reimer. I think in the regular season led in rushing yards. Dude
Yep.
was an absolute baller. Like, I mean, he was very impressive. And Matthias was really good. And Matthias, you can debate all you want who's the better running back, but Drew Reimer is one of the better running backs I've seen in the EWC. Just his speed and strength.
Yeah, his brother. You mentioned
Braden,
you said Drew.
Braden
Yeah,
Reimer,
the
sorry.
Braden Reimer we're
His
talking, and
brother, I think
yeah,
Drew.
yep, he is. But Braden, yeah, with overall, I think the big thing for him, right, he had 249 rushing attempts on the
Mm-hmm.
stats, 16 touchdowns, over 1,600 yards, right? I mean, from an efficiency standpoint, he's 6.5 yards an attempt. Like, come on, you certainly got to credit Reimer, and also, right? I mean, Two Rivers having a better offensive line too than Roncalli. If we want to really throw that out
Of
there, but
course.
both extremely talented individuals at on the defensive side as well. Can't forget about Reimer there. Of course, Matthias stands out like, as a bigger there on the as an inside linebacker. Right? I believe he was actually all state there. All state honorable mention. I believe was the recognition we saw. We talked about last week here on the podcast. But otherwise, right, that second team, it was a good balance again, right? A lot of Chilton. You saw like a few others on Two Rivers make it in, right? Elijah Mott, Christian Piles, Marcus Jacobs. We saw make it then for Chilton, and Ahmed for Chilton as the kicker, second team for them. Connor Faust made it as the quarterback from Kiel, Jaden Bastion, the running back of Brillion. Those Valders had Cole Fisher as a offensive lineman make it. Jalen Paul as a wide receiver. Grant Munns as the tight end. On the defensive side, we saw Braden April from Kiel. Right, we're talking basketball later. We'll talk about Braden April. Um, Noah Heinen made it as an inside linebacker. Austin Schwartz of Brillion. Philip Casper of New Holstein. In basketball, you'll hear his name. And the one you mentioned, Max Mathias, is a freshman, right? Second team defense. Talk about it. Wow. Um, Otherwise, then the punter, Elias Sparks of Valders, that makes it. So, yeah, this second team squad, I mean, right, Max Mathias is the freshman making the second team certainly what stood out, right? Or even Christian Piles as a sophomore, Bryce Gluckson, the running back, um, Keel making it. These sophomores that make the second team for sure stand out.
Yeah, Gullickson from Kiel, he looked really good when I saw him, um, offensively wise. But yeah, I mean, other guys, like I said, Matthias is a stud. Just a lot of those guys, like, I mean, Munns, tight end. Was he first or second team?
Munns was second team, Heinen first
Okay,
team due
yeah.
to he had
No.
the insane.
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry, my light.
Yeah, Robert's got some motion detection lights, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, so just a lot of those guys, and I mean, yeah, a lot of good football players this year. Like, I just remember I was, again, didn't see a ton of the games, but there was a lot of good players I saw, and a lot of ones you didn't say on the first, and even some on the second team that, were just good players this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, right? We can't mention them all, and of course, even including honorable mentions. I mean, sometimes you can't even get them all on these teams, right? It was a
Mhm.
conference wise, right? I mean, we talked. It ended up being fairly competitive, right? I mean, we saw like right Valders, compete right with you know Keel, we saw even, Ron Colley gave KLC a little run, in that game. So, I mean, just talking about it, I mean, it was a more competitive conference than we've seen in the last few years. And that's really, what you look from
What
an
you
overall
want.
conference standpoint. Yeah, like you said, that's exactly what you want. And we gladly and happily saw that this year, right? We even saw, right, Two Rivers, a win away from state. And, right, they gave Catholic Memorial a run for their money, right? Something not many thought might happen. And, yeah, credit where credit's due to Rivers and, of course, the other teams in the conference. But I guess any other things you want to talk about here on the football all conference team list?
No, I mean, really, I mean, obviously, Two Rivers, like you said, almost, I mean, to Catholic Memorial, just obviously they ended up losing, and but just saying when you have dynasty like they have, anyone who almost beats them or beats them, it's just a huge thing. And I saw it was 20-0, I think it was, and they came back, and
Yep.
I was very impressed. Just with Two Rivers, I'm obviously I didn't really watch the game, couldn't find a stream or whatever. But yeah, I mean that is impressive as all heck. And Two Rivers is going to get better even next year. That's the scary thing. So it's just like I'm sure they're just counting down the days to get that rematch, and they are motivated as ever. And I mean TR obviously I think is unanimously will win the conference next year, and then Keel, Chilton, some of those teams will be sprinkled in the top like they kind of have the past couple of years, and we'll kind of see from there.
Yeah, I think you hit it right in the nose. I think it's going to be, those three we like to kind of, I think they'll be in the top three. But, what makes this conference so great, right? I mean, this remaining five spots, they're up for grabs, right? I mean, we could see
Mm-hmm.
potentially, as Valdez, Ron Colley, we could see them rebound, finish in that middle mix. As well with New Holstein too. See them maybe flip flop, right? I mean, not a lot of separate. We talk 2, 3, and 4 teams, 2, 2, and 5 teams, and then around Collie team, they lose Braden Reimer, but overall as a team, they could potentially get better, right? I mean,
They got Landon Halupny, their young quarterback back. He'll be a good player for them. He'll be a junior next year. So yeah, look, they'll probably throw the ball more. So they're still a sleeper team for next year.
yeah, can't count anyone out here in the EWC, right? I mean, get solid, well balanced conference teams, right? And it's got to be a good conference again in 2023 is what we imagine, but we have a lot of stuff to talk about here, so we don't want to cut, of course, football short. But look, we got 2 basketball previews we got to get through here. We got to talk about on the boys and girls side here for the Eastern Wisconsin Conference, and yeah, Robert. Hold on. Oh, we got to touch on, of course, starting. We'll start on the girls' side, right? We'll talk about they've had some games going on. They've been playing, and with that, I guess through 1 to 2 games is what we're looking at for the girls' season. Started last week. What have been some of your big takeaways? I guess right. I mean, Brilliant starts out 0-1. Chilton, they win their first 2 in pretty good fashion, and overall, it's been a solid start to non-con for the EWC for the girls' side. So, what do you think?
Yeah, obviously I haven't seen any girls games yet. I still recognize a few names from last year. Obviously, Olivia Hurl's sister Adeline. Looks like she'll light up the score sheet just like her sister did a year ago. Same with Grace Shizzle, already off averaging 26 apiece. So I think Chilton, New Holstein, Brilliant, Keel, that'll be kind of your top 4. I mean, Brilliant, obviously they're 0-1. They lost to Manitowoc Lutheran in a very close game. They had a couple players out that game, but we don't know when those players are coming back. And they have New Holstein early on their schedule. So I mean, one loss there could be very big in determining the conference championship. So I definitely think it is very wide open at the top just because of that reason. And then at the bottom you still got your good players. Kakis is back for Two Rivers. They have a new coach. They're 1-0. So yeah, there's a lot of teams. I'll be kind of interested to see where they end up because it's getting to the point where I don't recognize a lot of names anymore, and it's always interesting to see where teams end up and who's who's at the top of the stats.
Yeah, full disclosure, Robert and I were talking about that before the year, right? I mean, covering this stuff still, right? It's great to discuss the insight that we want to talk about, but we're starting to not know all these players here, and big thing, right? I mean, these non-con games, we saw New Holstein, you mentioned, run away with some of these games, right? North Fond du Lac they took care of in that one. Shizzle, you mentioned 20, averaging 26 a game. Hurl averaging 26 as well. Another one is Kiel and Howard's Grove, right? Kiel gets the job done there. They win. They won by 14 against Howard's Grove. It's going to be interesting to see how Kiel performs this year, though, as well with that group. But certainly you gotta like Brilliant and New Holstein, like you mentioned, in those top two. Kiel, all right. Chilton certainly too. I think it'll be a pretty good conference here, of course. But some other, we have some more non-con games coming up. Through Monday, Tuesday, right? I mean, this is the big time for non-con. We have Thanksgiving stuff. Valders, New Holstein are playing at Pfizer Forum. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not.
Yeah, some pretty good gigs here for the squads, but we'd imagine it's going to be a pretty, right? I mean, we talked about the competition. It's going to be a competitive conference, but hey, Steve, any other really main takeaways here?
No, I mean, obviously, I think, Megan Schumann, Shizzle, Hurl. I forget the Kiel girl's name, but those four will kind of be your top, probably four players. I think maybe not auto bids, but pretty much, barring crazy situations. You look at those are your pretty solid top four players. I'm probably missing one or two, maybe from a different school, but just off the top of my head, that's kind of where I see right now. And I mean, obviously, Brilliant won the last 2 years. Like I said, they got some players out of the lineup right now that we don't know when they'll be back. So yeah, that's it. That really makes it difficult to kind of judge this. And yeah, so it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton Grenzer, another one. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sick, but like the voice, I don't know, it's just gone right now. So
one of those days.
Yeah, it was dry outside. That's another thing for me. So I was like, but we're gonna touch a little bit on the EWC boys side here because again we still have to talk professional sports, right? We got some trivia still we're throwing in there, and let's roll to it. Of course, they haven't played games yet because they start their season this week. Right, Tuesday being opening night, I guess it is, for the EWC boys side, and that features some non-con games. It feels like it's a tradition now. Valders and Plymouth like square off every year first game. I mean, it's been like the last 4, it might be 5. I mean, even like I'll date myself a little. The Cole Booth, right?
No, Cole Booth, my boy. Yep.
Yeah, Cole Booth days. That was certainly. I was like, all right, tradition. Valders kicks off their season. Cole Booth puts up 25. Nice. But we got some other ones here. We got like Green Bay West and Kiel. Kiel playing a bigger school there for game 1. Sturgeon Bay Chilton, Valders Plymouth, New Holstein Campbellsport. Campbellsport still should be a pretty good squad, right, Robert? I mean, they were pretty solid the last few years.
I know they were like ranked last year or something.
Yeah.
For a part of the year. I don't know. I think they got like a 10-0 start. I'm not really sure if they have anyone back really. Obviously, I think New Holstein Campbellsport is another one of those traditional. They seem back when I played, they played first game. So that's got to be almost every year. I know like Brilliant and Wrightstown always used to play first game, and that switched. But yeah. So when's Brilliant's first game? Is it the 29th? It is a Tuesday after Thanksgiving.
So the 29th, it's them in Green Bay West. Or not Green Bay. Kewanee, there it is. Yeah, I got it here. We got Valders playing Green Bay East that day too. I mean, the West and East are being thrown around in the EWC. So
yeah.
We'll see those games. But I guess from a conference perspective, right? I mean, this is gonna be a very good conference. I mean, I'd say right two of these teams, Brilliant and Valders for sure, with really right high expectations, right? I mean, especially Brilliant coming off going to state last year, right? You gotta love their chances again to run it back with a similar squad, if not a very same squad, and then also. On, I mean, the Valders side too. I mean, you're in a very favorable sectional. Again, we were talking about it, and you right? Cole Hovey returns, Jackson Olsen returns. You get some solid depth players back. I mean, you gotta love it for both those squads for sure, right?
Yeah, obviously you got to throw Keel and Roncalli into the mix. Um, yeah, Brilliant. Obviously, they got a lot of guys back, including, their Jeremy Lorenz, their leader. So, whenever that happens, you expect a big year. And I think Brilliant's kind of, I don't know how much, I don't know what their whole team will look like. Didn't lose a lot of people, but it'll be interesting to see who all gets their minutes and who's leading statistical wise. Yeah, but then, I mean, you mentioned Valders. I mean, Hovey and Olsen, it seemed like, 10 years ago they entered the conference, and they'll still put up numbers this year. And I mean, this is going to be a fun conference and fun couple teams to cover, at least at the top, because I mean, and then you got more guys. I mean, I'm sure you know more about Valders, but 3-point shooting, I feel like is going to be a big strength for them, and they still do have decent size with Hovey and Olsen, and then obviously, like I said, Keel and Roncalli. I mean, Roncalli, obviously they lost a lot. But I'll say this, they brought in Josh Erickson, really, really good player. Number of years ago at Roncalli, he played at Concordia. He knows the system. He knows what to do, what to look for. So I think it's fitting that they stay in house there and kind of hire someone familiar. It's good. I'm guessing it'll be a similar system. And Braden Yonda played really, really well last year. He's probably a first-team all-conference player this year, and they'll find guys to cover the roles. They'll still be a really tough team. And then, like I said, Keel. They have big statistical team who likes to put up, who puts up pretty big stats.
They'll shoot the ball, yeah. Yeah,
Graham Munns, Pierce Arntz, like we said, what's his April – Bruner, just got a lot of shooters all over the court. They pretty much all of them can shoot, and they're always a team that you just know if you catch them on the right side of the road for them, look out. They can beat anyone on this list, and so this conference is just going to be kind of very, very, very similar, I think, to where it was last year. Besides Luke Pouts, I mean, he's really the only senior that's. Reese Stengel's gone, Breckheimer's gone. Those are your two kind of other guys who are in there, but like Fisher. But it's just like those besides kind of Roncalli, everyone else is basically very, very similar. So I think it'll kind of be a very similar conference to last year.
I'm right with you. I'm hoping the voice gets better, but yeah, I mean, Brilliant. I mean, we talked about a lot of returning guys. Valders, yeah, you cannot count out the Keel Raiders. I'm glad you emphasized that. I mean, that's something we're looking at, right? I mean, I was on the air WMT for the Keel Roncalli game. Looking, they gave Roncalli a run for their money last year. I mean, it took some heroics, but at the end with the buzzer beater. But man, that was a close, exciting game. I mean, also. I mean, Chilton, we have in the middle of the pack, right? We have those squads who you never know, right? I mean, we've seen upsets before, or maybe not even upsets. We've just seen some games where teams have gotten a win where maybe they weren't expected to. We could certainly see that again this year. You touch on Roncalli, right? We don't really. That's the team I'm most intrigued to see because I feel like we know how Keel's going to come out. We know how Brilliant's going to come out. We know how Valders is going to come out. What about Roncalli, right? I mean, they're coming off a state title, all right, and they have a new head coach. They have, a pretty new group of guys, right? I mean, you still got, of course, Yonda, but I really want to see how this Roncalli team comes down and plays.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Then you look at the other teams. I think they're all pretty much just going to be better, just because you have your same kind of group of guys. And, we saw at times last year, like, Chilton and, Two Rivers, those two. And I mean, all the teams, it'll very be, I think, are maybe a little step below the top four teams. But again, you just never know who's called up for JV, who's incoming, who transferred. A lot of moving parts and a lot of different, things. And we've seen it before. Teams who are maybe under the radar come flying up and start picking off, top teams in the conference for upsets. So, yeah, this season I think is going to be really interesting. And every year in this EWC, you've kind of had like, two teams that are always feel like they have a good shot at making state in Division III and Division IV. And like, Valders, Roncalli, Sheboygan Falls for a little bit there. Brilliant obviously last year, Roncalli last year. And, I'll throw it out this year. Like, I mean, Brilliant, Valders, Kiel gets hot too. You never know. Those three teams, I think, all, have the firepower when they get rolling, maybe, put some games together and, have the opportunity to make a deep postseason run.
I'm right with you. I mean, I feel like we're gonna see an EWC squad at the Kohl Center, right? I mean, they've certainly been well represented the last, might go as far as a decade, right? I mean, or ever since the conference formed, it's been a very strong basketball conference, and I'd imagine that stay the same. Like we talked about in a recap last year, EWC is in good hands. It's in great hands. A lot of talent coming up from JV, a lot from even middle school if we want to go from that far, but. We can certainly pencil in a victory for Valders at home against Brilliant,
automatic.
right? Okay.
It's Brilliant can go 29-1, but at Valders, wouldn't be surprised again if they have their issues there.
It seems like when's the last time Brilliant's gotten a win there?
They did win 2 years ago, I know.
And yeah. That was an overtime, but Valders should have won that one, maybe.
Yeah. Well, again, it's just. You get late in those games, one block charge, one travel can just everything can just change the whole. So, but yeah, again, I guarantee, I guarantee whatever, that'll be a close couple possession game either way. When Brilliant takes the trip to Valders, I think that's an earlier game in the season too. So that, that maybe whoever gets off to a quicker start will be favored in that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to look when that game is. I don't know if I can get
say
that
like early December, like a Tuesday or something. December like 13th.
I got you. Thursday, December 15th. We're going to Valders. Looks like so.
That'll be a good one.
And then they match up at Brilliant. That's not until late Friday, February 3rd. So I mean, you gotta wait a little bit for that rematch, but. Of course, we have some tough non-con games scheduled. They always have those thrown in. Valders actually plays Randolph last game of the year at Valders. So,
Valders has always had strong non-conference. And I think they've always, like the last couple of years, they've had success maybe winning games they shouldn't in the playoffs, and beating a team like Xavier number of years ago.
Or St. Mary Springs last year, or St. Mary Catholic.
It's just like they always seem to pick off a team, and I always like, Valders' chances. And you look, they play a really good schedule. In the, they're not playing, teams that they know they can just go in there and beat by 30. They know every game, it seems, for Valders that's when you look. Their scores a lot, or their records are always kind of like 15-12, 13-13 the last couple of years, and it kind of gets a little. You see that, and it's not really an accurate representation of Valders, I feel like. So yeah, I definitely think that's good for them to get, again, what they always do, play really good non-con games.
Yeah, I'm right with you. Let me pull up the rest of the stuff we're looking at here. Okay, here it is. There we go. I'm at the stuff I want. I had because we're talking girls and boys. You gotta make sure we're on the right stuff here. But yeah, that schedule we touched on it. That Brilliant game gonna be a good one. Otherwise, I guess we wanted to kind of go through some rankings. We'll kind of talk about the first team, right? I mean, it'd be pretty easy for me to say, I go to last year's first team, I look at it, and I think we're going to see a similar output to that. But obviously, Luke Pouts, we'll see Braden Yanda, I think, insert in there. I guess overall, Robert, isn't that kind of a fair representation of what we'll probably
Yeah,
see?
maybe. I definitely think Arndt and Lorenz, I think, are your two unanimous.
Mm-hmm.
I will throw Cole Hovey in there as well. And then, so those three I think are unanimous right now. And then I think it's a toss up. I really like Grady Geiger to be in there. I think, he was
It's
very,
going to be
very,
interesting.
I definitely think if I had to project it, I think it would be Lorenz, Arndt, Hovey, Geiger, and then Munz or Yanda, depending on where
That's where I'm going to.
like
Yeah,
that.
Munz.
I definitely think those four are your top four players this year. Munz, obviously he was on the first team last year. It had to be very close, but it definitely it just depends. If Munz puts up a monster year statistically in the rebounding department where he did last year, then there's he's probably back
Yeah.
on it. If Yanda turns into a very stud guard and Roncalli can maybe finish third and win some really tough games, he probably gets on it. And maybe you never know with injuries
And
or stuff like that.
Max Miller of Chilton too,
Yep.
right? I mean, there's another one. Kane Holly of Brilliant, Olson of Alders, Parker Brown of Brilliant. We mentioned Yanda. So I mean, there's a lot of guys here. And yeah, Graham Munz gained the nod last year. Certainly going to be close between Geiger and Munz. I'd imagine this year as well. We saw one from Brilliant, we saw two from Kiel, one from Valders, and then one from Roncalli last year, and Roncalli being Pouts. So that's really the lone one graduate. I mean, we talked about it. There's more juniors than seniors on the all-conference team last year. I mean, that sums it up in terms of, we have a lot of talent returning, and I think, we talked about it again last year, EWC being in great hands. No surprise, again, with the preseason talks being, however, these juniors from last year, now, of course, seniors. So little senior heavy, I'd imagine, then for this all-conference squad. But
yeah, definitely. Definitely, after this year, don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I definitely think there'll be a lot of turnover, going into the 23-24 year. That will be very interesting as well. But yeah, this year, again, like I said, a lot of the same, but still enough where it's different enough where you don't know what's going to happen. So it's why you play the games. It's why it's why you do your stuff. So yeah, it's definitely be a fun year.
Do we know? Will the computer be generating the matchups?
Unfortunately, yes, I think so.
It's kind of what I thought.
That'll be obviously, like we said. I'll go back to the Valders thing about computer last year. A lot of it said conference, but we do know it's big on non-conference. If you win your non-conference games, that is a big thing. In football, you saw that too.
Oh yeah.
It's just you need good non-conference wins. So that's Valders, you pick off a couple tough teams non-conference, that'll help out. And yeah, I just think I don't know. I'm not exactly sure if they looked at it at all or.
I hope they adjusted the algorithm in some way. I mean, it was terrible.
Bad. Yeah, there was so many situations last year where it was just brutal. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Every team has to deal with it the same way. So, for the most part, yeah, it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, that's going to wrap up our EWC talk here. Again, credit wissports.net WSN. Again, that link is down below. So, check that out. All your Wisconsin high school sports needs are on WSN. So, wissports.net. Let's go. Let's roll here, Robert. We're gonna switch it up a little, right? We were just talking high school for so long. We're gonna go to the NBA. We're gonna go and we're gonna talk about Milwaukee Bucks. Right? I mean, they have a 3-game week last week. They have a 3-game week this week. And with that, I mean, It was a tough way to start the week. Monday, right? I mean, Atlanta, they end up playing 3 games against them already in their first 15, and Atlanta wins 2 of 3 against them. That one being at home. Rolling the Wednesday, division game against Cleveland. It's like, all right, Cleveland thinks there's something. Let's play him, and it was pretty much a humbling game by the Bucks, right? I mean, they get the job done. They win by 15. Lopez puts up 29. And then that Friday night game, were you watching that Friday night one? That one was something. Philly getting the job done.
I did not get to see that game. No.
Yeah. It was interesting. Did you see the incident that took place after with Giannis and Montrezl? Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, we can debate that all we want.
Yeah.
I'll say this: if the ladder doesn't fall over, nothing happens because of it. I don't know what Montrezl Harrell is doing out there. I don't know what happened with him. I mean, I don't understand really that, but I think it definitely got overblown. Giannis was just trying to shoot around, and if the ladder doesn't fall over, I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, but again, that's what happened. But that was a frustrating game too for the Bucks. I mean, it felt like they were in control almost at some points, but the big thing in that one was there's an Embiid foul that could have been easily a flagrant 2. I mean, there's a clip after the game. Oh, yeah, I'm sure you saw it. I mean, that's how obvious it was. At least today's NBA. I mean, he should have been tossed. Otherwise, I mean, there's also a clip with Bobby Portis going up to him after and like, nope, not buying it. That it was, it was a dirty play, I'd say. And it's tough to lose in 2 out of 3. You just want Middleton back. I mean, this week, I mean, it feels like I've been saying, nope, he's coming back this week. He's coming back this week because, I mean, that's kind of what we've heard. I mean, he's been practicing for weeks now. So I'm intrigued to see where he ends up, but in that. But I'm hoping you get him back this week. But you got 3 home games here. I mean, 4 in a row consecutively, but I guess we're going through this. We're looking at Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We got Portland, Chicago, Cleveland are your games. And with those, looking at it, and I guess we'll include the Dallas one in here as well. So really 4 games. They got Dallas Sunday night, 7 p.m. at Pfizer. I know I originally told you 3 games, Robert, but really 4 here. It's Portland, Chicago, Cleveland, Dallas. So you get that rematch against Cleveland. You meet with the Bulls for the first time this year. Then you get Portland and a tough one against Dallas. What do you think?
3-1. I think they get rolling again. I think you see the Bucks bounce back a lot. Very resilient group that plays hard. I really like us beating the Bulls. Cavs, I think that'll be a really tough physical game. Cavs, they're pretty electric this year, like Garland and Mitchell. So, but I think, Bucks really use their veteran mentality and out physical them in that game. Blazers, I mean, Blazers have been very good this year. Anthony Simmons and Lillard, obviously, just 2 guys who can shoot the lights out. But I don't know. I could definitely see us losing one of those Cavs versus the Trailblazers. And I don't know, in the big spot, I mean, Bucks seem to kind of show up for big games. It's a really big game against the Mavs. I do like Bucks' kind of physicality there. Not sure when Middleton is completely back. Probably a stretch he gets back by then. But I don't know. I'd like to think we go 3-1. Obviously, when he started out 8-9-0 or whatever we did, you're kind of looking at the schedule like, how many in a row are we going to win? And I think you got to just get back to what the Bucks team does best here, and they will. So I definitely think 3-1 is in their future here in the next week. And yeah, I'd say that'd be a successful week if that happens.
Yeah, I'm right with you. Full disclosure, I mean, coming into the year, I had this Bucks team, right? 50-55 wins. I'm like, they're not going to take the regular season seriously. I mean, they have the talent, right? They have the experience. So it's about keeping guys healthy at that point. But 11-4 they start. I mean, they've been practicing load management or whatever you want to call it. They're still 11-4. I mean, I can't really, credit where credit's due, right? They start off hot. Right, Javon Carter then goes off in the games where Giannis and Holiday get that load management, you call it, or whatnot. now, I mean, you got to be looking 55, 60 games this team could win, and certainly we can see them falter a little bit as this team, it's NBA, but you certainly got to like them for 55 wins at least. And you gotta like them in the East, of course, with right Boston, Miami, Philadelphia, right? Those the big teams in the East. You gotta like the Bucks in that.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think I'll be interested to see where like Philadelphia ends up. Like Brooklyn, do they even like?
Oh my goodness,
Brooklyn looks.
they're a disaster.
I do think obviously they're better with, you know, Kyrie. I mean, they got back on track tonight. I mean, we won't get into the whole Kyrie Irving deal, but yeah, they're just again no depth. Ben Simmons has been playing better, but yeah, you just never know really in the East. Like that's just kind of a tough conference. And overall in the NBA, I think there's a lot of like the Kings, like they are on an absolute tear.
Yeah, I mean,
Like you just
Warriors been bad.
it is that's why you play 82 games. Like you can look at a team right now who's you know 14-7, my bad there, 14-3 or something, and or whatever, and it's just they just get hot, or they just that's why you play your 82 games. I definitely think your Warriors, your Celtics, your Bucks, your Sixers, you know Mavs, just teams like that. Your strong physical teams, veteran teams are going to be at the end of the playoffs still standing, but yeah, a lot of like kind of weird records and like interesting records, I think, for the first, 14 games, 18 games we've had here.
I still can't believe the Kings put up 153 against the Nets. I mean, that for me was certainly something in that one. There we go. We got Robert back.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
that I remember I was watching that. I just had like the scrolling through scores, and like they just kept going up and up, and I was like, holy smokes.
so what's going on? And again, the Kings have been like, all right, well, defense is okay. We're not going to focus on it, but we'll play a little bit. But I mean,
Yeah,
they've been so electric offensively. I mean, there's a reason I mean, they're 9-6, so it's not like they're, this 15-0 team. But I mean, for this squad, I mean, you're looking at right De'Aaron Fox. He's averaging 25 a game.
oh yeah.
He's been tough, right? I mean, they make a questionable trade for Sabonis, and right now it's paying some dividends, right? For having a forward or a power forward center be able to rebound and pass at the level he can pass at, even score. So, and you're just seeing some of these other guys, right, playing well. Terrence Davis was one.
Mm-hmm.
Keegan Murray, right? I mean, has played pretty well, and it's been an interesting recipe for success, but it's paid off for Sacramento. So,
I mean, yeah, when you average 120 a game, I mean, they're averaging 120 points a game, and like of lately, it's more like probably 130. It's like when you could do that, a team's gonna just have to be on their best shooting night to come in and beat you in your home floor. So it's they're really just a weird but whatever solid team right now.
have they scored under 100 points yet this year?
I'm not sure about that.
I don't think they have. I'm looking right now. Lowest output is 107. There you go. 107 is the lowest scoring output for them. I mean, come on.
Although they haven't played the Bucks yet, and the Bucks defense, if they're at full strength, I'd like to see how many they score there. But yeah, I mean, just in the last like 6 games here, 127, 120, 122, 153, 130, 137. Yes, yeah, just weird NBA season kind of so far.
I totally agree. Again, 3-1 for Robert, 3-1 for me as well. Not that exciting. I'm gonna take the same record as him, but we're gonna touch on here. It's gonna be kind of a not so great a way to end the episode, but other than trivia, right? Trivia is the great way, but we're gonna talk about the Titan-Packer game that took place last Thursday at Lambeau. Yeah, I mean, when you have Ryan Tannehill dot up your offense or your defense, and when you have this Titans offense that is either like in the 20s in all of football. I mean, they might have been more closer to like 25. Put up 408 yards against your defense. There's going to be some head scratch. That's kind of where I'd start, Robert. Right?
Yeah, Packers just right now. I don't know. I mean,
It's
it's
tough.
it's it's tough. It's just like this whole people just throw around the idea like Rodgers if he's here next year, if he's not. I mean, I don't know the answer either. It's just I really I don't know. I don't think this season is too much of a surprise. I think at some point, it had to come crashing down, especially when you lose Devontae Adams and even a guy like MVS, like just a trusted guy. But I mean, I don't think that's our problem right now. I just think I don't know who it is, Rodgers, LaFleur. We just don't have an identity, and yeah, it's just we're just not that good of a football team, I think, and people just don't really understand that. Roster wise in this NFL, we're just not that good of a team.
Yeah.
I definitely
And
think the Titans, they are a really good roster, even though they don't have a top quarterback or stud wide
they have so
receiver.
many injuries too. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it's
why
just
like Packers have had a lot of injuries, right? Rashawn Gary out for the year, Eric Stokes out for the year. I mean, Titans have had a similar, right? I mean, they've had some significant injuries, but they've been able to. They have a lot of depth. I mean, that's what you're seeing this Titans team have that this Packers team just doesn't.
they're physical, well coached. Two
Oh yeah.
things I question the Packers on, and it's just I don't know. I just think situationally the Packers are very bad. Just like in the red zone, fourth down, late in the game. You see Rodgers, it's fourth down, just fade routes, and guys don't. Sammy Watkins, the last couple, like
Oh my
guys
goodness.
just don't know where they're going or don't know what they're doing. And is that all on Rodgers? No, but part of it's just like I don't know. I just think we don't have an identity, and I just think this year it's not going to. Hopefully, not a complete waste where we're watching meaningless games. Week 15, hopefully somehow
Oh
they can
my
brew
goodness.
up some.
Jordan Love starting then. Oh,
Oh, please no! I'd rather
we're
no
gonna have Jordan
anything
Love starting.
besides that.
I think Rodgers though. I mean, go back. I mean, there's certainly been some reads, right? There's been some more, and of course with receivers, but I still feel there's something with the thumb. I mean, I know he's not gonna say, "Oh, this thumb is preventing me to make a said throw," but just watching him in the games, it's just he looks in pain. I mean, in some drives, he just doesn't look himself, and I mean, of course, the numbers speak for that, but of course, he's gotten older, and weapon wise, I mean, Devontae Adams being a huge loss. I mean, again, I feel we were a little blinded by the fact, they lose Devontae Adams, but there's still some pretty good weapons around them, but just not that depth, and that depth is what they need right now.
Well, yeah, and I think especially um, what I was gonna say before is I kind of lost my train of thought there. But like Roger, when you're talking about like Rogers with the thumb, there'll be drives where I'm like, wow, Rogers looks like 2014 Rogers, where he's just slinging it around and find. And then there's other times where it's like Sammy Watkins, he missed right down the middle, overthrows Lazard, and you're just like, what the heck is going on? And fans, I think as Wisconsin and sports fans in general, so quick to blame Rogers, does deserve some blame. At the same time, look what's around him kind of and what he's had to deal with. But at the same time, it's just like, well, now we're 2 years ago making the business decision drafting Jordan Love, we thought was the right move. Obviously was not. But now I almost think it's time to kind of prepare a business decision. And put it this way, I do not think Jordan Love is our quarterback in the future. I do not like Jordan Love.
Um,
I don't think he's that good.
I thought it was a weird year to take a quarterback. I'll be honest. I mean, when they did it and who they took, right? I mean, we've talked about that being a head scratcher, especially when you're ready to compete, right? I mean, maybe get a player that could make an immediate impact, right? But look, you've heard every talk show complain about the Jordan Love pick, and rightfully so, right? I mean, we're not gonna dabble in that as much, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, this Packers squad, it's not looking good. 4-7 is the record. Right? I mean, the Lions, right? I believe they have record wise, they have the better record based on tiebreaker. They're both 4-7, I think.
Yeah.
So and yeah, I mean, not a good time to be a Packer fan, and it does not get easier. Sunday night we go to Philly, play the Eagles. Yeah, it could easily be 4-8 before you head back. You head to Soldier Field and face the Bears. I mean, it's
I'll say
It's
this:
tough.
that Eagles, that's a game. I'm not saying the Packers are going to win because I said the Packers are going to beat the Jets, the Commanders,
Oh,
the
same,
Lions. I
same.
think, but I'm just saying this Eagles team. You saw it again today. I think that there
The
is kind of a
underachievers.
game. Their run defense is not good. The Eagles. I know they brought in Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. Whatever. They
Well,
don't
so
scare me.
many injuries. Jordan Davis on the IR. That's huge. I mean, um, yeah, I'm looking at that Philly squad. I mean, again, if you face this squad, I think even 3 weeks ago, I think you're looking at a tougher game. Again, it being at Philly does not help, but yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the Packers get the Eagles at a pretty good time, right? I mean, a lot of injuries, a lot of players banged up. Right, Goddard. I didn't even talk about that yet. I mean, that's certainly something to keep in mind. Packers have still performed pretty well against quarterbacks other than Tannehill. They've been pretty tough on quarterbacks in terms of fantasy score and just in terms of overall right production. But
Yeah, like I mean,
um,
this Eagles team. I mean, you almost lose to the Texans, and then the Commanders come in and just beat you, are physical, and then today, like Jonathan Taylor had a really good start to the game. They got better as the game went on, not giving them much to work with, but they very easily could have lost today to three teams who are just probably not playoff teams. So it's just like I don't know. I definitely think it's a close game. I don't know in Philadelphia. This is a game the Packers win, and it's this could happen, this could happen to make the playoffs. When it's just just kind of not a useless game, but I definitely could see the Packers winning a game like this.
well, I think right now, based on tiebreakers, I mean, they're gonna have to go. 10-7 would be like okay. You probably get him regardless. But for me, it's like 9-8. I mean, you don't have those tiebreakers against the Commanders. You don't have those tiebreakers even against like the Giants, right? I mean, that last
Exactly.
spot, it certainly is like with 9-8. I don't think you get in. I you
Still
got to
got
be
to play
ten and
the
seven. You got to win
Vikings.
out. Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to win out. And maybe right. I mean, miracles can happen. Maybe they get lucky with a 9-8 where a team falls off, or they don't play the 49ers this year, so they have the tiebreaker over them. They could be divisional record. So I don't think
and,
they're gonna get that, but
yeah, and you hear a lot of people talk about like that 2016 squad, like well we
run
were
the table.
in 2016. The roster we had then in the NFC North. Then I mean, you look at that, and we won the NFC North. I think that's what people. And it's just like we don't have any chance to do that this year. And the wild card is just kind of like you said, we don't have those tiebreakers, and that NFC East is really solid. But I think you look at their schedule; these last 6 games we have here, Eagles. It's kind of a must-win game if you want any discussion in the playoffs, and then Bears and Rams, two teams I think we can both beat. Two not bad teams, but bad teams. And then Dolphins and Vikings. I mean, that's you turn around and play those two with the Lions last. So I mean, obviously you can't afford to lose another game, and that's just where you are. But I mean,
Yeah,
there's not many quarterbacks. I still wouldn't rather have any NFC North quarterback besides Aaron Rodgers. So
yeah.
who
Look
knows?
what not to get on a football tangent here, but look at you beat Dallas last week, and then look what they do. They come into Minnesota and just they just run all over them. I mean, it was a blowout. I mean, I think they end up winning by 30 plus.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. This Cowboy team they beat 7-3. They're no joke. Um, and yeah, I mean that's kind of it here for the football talk, Robert. And we're here. We love to keep these around the hours mark. So we got like 6 minutes left or so, Robert. You got some trivia planned. I'd love to hear it.
I do, and we talked EWC today. We talked football and basketball, and sorry, we didn't talk basketball, but I do got a baseball question. So I'll start out with our EWC question. So as it kind of brought up during the boys portion, so the boys question, a lot of big stats last year. Yes or no? In the five major season leaders, like you know, per we'll go season totals because it was season
Yep.
totals. Was every points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks broken last year, or it was the new record in conference history? Yes or
And
no?
we're talking about for boys in 2021 to 2022 for basketball, right?
Yes. So was the record broken in points, rebounds, blocks, steals, and assists?
I'm gonna say yes.
Very close.
No.
No. For
Pouts.
Pouts blew it away. Rebounds, Munz blew it away. Assist, Arntz blew it away. And blocks,
Yeah.
Lorenz just blew it out of proportion. So steals was the only one, and the steals I think was second. Luke Pouts had 71 steals. This was like a top 5, top 6 EWC player. Any guess on who the first ever was?
Do I get steals? No, or not steals. Do I get school?
Well, if they give you the school, you'll automatically get it. Put it that way.
Okay.
I'll say this: it's south of Alders. If that helps you at all.
Yeah. I mean, it helps me, but I gotta think. Oh, I don't know.
Top player.
Oh, is it with Falls? Is it Petrie?
Yes. It's JT Petrie. Had 85 steals in like 2017, or it was his senior year. Had 85. So that's a pretty impressive stat there. So, all right.
Nice.
So number 2, I'll go. This one took a little bit of research, but it's kind of a fun one. So I'll do combined total scores a game. I'll give you a number on the largest combined total in EWC history, like between EWC teams, the largest combined total score between the two teams, and the lowest. I'll give you a number, and you tell me that's higher or lower. Okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, so for the largest, was the largest score over or under 188.5?
I think it was over. I think we talked about. I'm gonna say higher. Yeah.
You are correct. It's 206. That was Two Rivers beating Roncalli 104-102.
When was that? How many years ago was that?
2016, 2017. That was a while ago.
Yeah. I remember talking about that once in a while. Yeah.
I do remember us talking about this. I kind of thought you might get that one, but yeah, good memory there. So the lowest, and recently we've had some low ones, but the lowest is 61.5. Was it higher or lower?
Oh my, 61.5. And like, does this include like when it was 4 quarters, or are we talking like the two?
This would be a second half.
Oh my goodness, you said it was 61.5.
Yes.
I'll say higher. It's probably lower, but I'll go higher.
It is lower.
Oh my goodness.
When I was looking it up, I thought the Brilliant Valders game when it was like 43-39 2 years ago. I believe you were there. I thought that would definitely be the winner. And then I looked. There was a Chilton Roncalli game. It was 50-27. But this game blows it out of the water with Brilliant defeating Chilton 36-25 in 2017. 25
points only put up?
Yes.
Oh, and my goodness.
There was another one that was very close between Brilliant and Chilton that year. It was like 30s to 20s. But, yeah, so that was 61 total points in 2017.
Nice.
All right. So our third kind of EWC kind of question is which EWC community hosted NFL training camp in the 1930s and 1940s? The Eagles and the Steelers.
Which EWC? Oh, I feel like I've heard about this. Was it Sheboygan Falls?
No. It was Two Rivers. In the 1930s and 40s, they hosted Eagles, Steelers, and they use Walsh Field, which still they play baseball there today. Walsh Field, Two Rivers, Washington High School hosted NFL teams in the summer. So that's kind of a fun stat. Another NFL stat here. So I got 3 teams. This is a kind of fun one. 3 teams that were in the NFL, like their nicknames. And then there's 1 team that wasn't. You got to find the team that wasn't. Okay? So I'll name 4 teams. 3 of them have existed. 1 has not.
Sure. So
I got the Tornadoes, the Eskimos, the Triangles, and the Acorns.
Okay. What was the first one you read me?
Tornadoes.
Okay, I'm debating between tornadoes and acorns. For the one not. I'm going to say acorns.
You are correct.
Yeah. Love
Acorns is
trivia.
made up. Tornadoes, that's gotta be my favorite. The triangles. That's a good one. All right. And so our final question. This one's gonna be kind of a, I don't know what I'll allow here. I'll do like within.
Okay.
But how much did Babe Ruth pay for his 700th career home run? We've seen Judge
yeah.
have big paydays or auctions. But when Babe Ruth hit his 700th home run, what did he pay the fan who caught it?
I'm going to say 50.
1930s.
I feel like this is low even for inflation, but I'm going to say $50.
$20.
Wow.
I looked it up. It's about $300 to $350 today.
Yeah, I was going to say inflation adjusted. It's still pretty.
So that is very low.
You're
talking in the millions almost for Judge's 600th.
Putting up to auction for for number 62. I believe they're putting up auction wise.
Yeah.
Instead of giving it, he's offered a $3 million. I thought.
Yeah, that is just nuts with collectibles nowadays. So yeah, this one was kind of not really cut and dry. This was kind of a lot of room for air.
It's fun.
Just some fun ones. Yeah.
Love that. And I learned something new. 61 point score. I mean, that number, sorry, I just have to go back to it. I was just like, I didn't even know how to process that. Like, what do you say? Like, nice? Like it's defensive battle?
I remember being at that game. That was my freshman year of high school. I didn't even really think anything of it at the time, where it's like nowadays, if you don't, I don't know. Scoring was still high back then, but I just feel like the halftime score, I think, was like 13-7 was the halftime score. And it's just like, I just remember the quarter days,
that's why I was like
38 to 32s or that's just nuts.
I do not miss the quarter days though.
No,
I think we all get behind that. Love the halves so much, works better, I feel. And yeah, regarding episode 89 here with Robert and I got some announcements here before I wrap up. Hoping the voice gets better, right? We got more recordings this week. I'm not sure what happened today. Just kind of lost it, I guess. But we got an episode of Journey to a Million coming your way this week. Myself, Drew Skyberg, joined alongside Zach Rouse, Jared Vleski. The 1-year celebration of Journey to Millions this week. I got some awesome trivia planned. You heard Robert give some trivia tonight. I'll be giving some trivia when we record. We'll be aiming Monday through Wednesday this week at a recording date just with Thanksgiving. Gets a little messy. And then also some NBA DFS. I'll be bringing your way on Tuesday. We'll have that up in the morning. You'll hear my lineup, and you can come join me on Fantasia Sports. Do your free entry, win some contests on there, win some cash prizes. It's awesome stuff they got going on at Fantasia. But otherwise, at True Sports Crew is where you can find, of course, the podcast stuff, Instagram, Twitter. You know the drill. And yeah, Robert, thank you here for coming on right at EWC_sports. You'll see we'll have some stuff posted on there once in a while regarding podcast info. But again, thank you, Robert, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a lot of fun here. Right, previewing the high school sports, and we'll be following along, right? This won't be the last time you see Robert. I always say he always finds his way back here on the podcast. No matter how long it is, he'll always find his way back on. And here he is again here on episode 89. But again, that'll wrap it up here for Robert Shimek and myself, Drew Skyberg. Thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Drew's Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.